Okay, so last time we were we finished building some paneling, and now the next thing we're gonna do is to build first the windows, some antennas, some columns, etc. Okay, so let's start with the windows. In order for us to be able to do that, first we need to pull in our floors, which was, I think, where was it? Here. Was it here? Let me see. Maybe here. Yes. Okay, so we're gonna, from here, we're gonna pull our floors to create our windows. So let's create a delete sub. Actually, let's put it in now here. So let's connect that from just before we extrude the floors. So let's say in floors. So now I'm gonna randomly delete some primitives because I don't want to create a window every floor. Like I want to create a little variation, so there's some empty floors, etc. So for that we can use a delete swap and then change that to delete by range. And for example, I don't know, some value like this, 10 out of 3. So just remove some floors so we can have some say full areas without windows, more gaps, just to create a little bit more variety. And it's kind of like equally removing. So if you want to break the equal removal, I guess we can then go create a random. It's going to create a bit more, not randomized sort. Primitives, I guess random, and that's going to give a bit more of a random removal. So we can go again 3, I think 4. Let's go 4. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is now we're gonna again process this per floor. So we're gonna go for each primitive. So we're gonna fetch 1, and I want to sometimes the normals get messed up. So in order to avoid that, like during extrusion does on normals, it can, so but I'd like to avoid that, so I'm just gonna create a wrangle and I'm gonna say these are your normals at extrude direction equals curly brackets 0 minus 1 0 curly brackets. So we can use that for extrusion with a poly extrude, and then I'm gonna get poly extrude and I'm not gonna export font, but if I now start playing with this, you can see that we're building a little wall. So my normal attribute is gonna be point normal existing, no attribute, sorry, and now we're going to change it to extrude direction. So now the distance is important, of course, and that's where we're going to get the height that we had here. Where's our height? Whoop. It is somewhere here, I'm not seeing it. There. So when you are searching for nodes like this, you can also literally just go Control F and then height, and then it's gonna find you, so then you can just go there. That's a very helpful feature, just like you search websites. So this one had a floor gap attribute here, so we want to get that. So in order to do that, we can just call it again for our distance. So it's detail and then we need to pass the address. Should be there already. Comma, name of the attribute, floor gap, I think. We'll fix it if it's a typo, comma 0. And yes, so we get the appropriate height for this. Should show us. Well, we have an empty floor on top. Excuse me. No, it's you don't. It's fine. Yeah, so we get a little connection there. So we're gonna now create another extrude floor distance. So we're gonna get another poly extrude because we want to isolate the edges. And let's call these walls. Let's call these edges. So for the edges, I want to do a little inset like this. My current value is 0.725, and I want output side, output front. I also want front group. So now I can split front, extrude front, like I can do a blast. And this one can be extrude front, and then I'll copy this and paste it. So that's my kind of like rims, and that's pretty much the glass. Okay, and then we go here. I'm gonna do another extrude to give it a bit of a distance, thickness. Extrude. Again, let's call it edge thickness. Pretty much 30 centimeters. Okay, and then we want output back. Hopefully in my next tutorial we're gonna use these buildings. This time make it rigid body friendly and to actually destroy them. That could be cool. So let's continue anyway. So let's go to reverse so we can reverse our normals. Okay, and I think there's one more thing I was doing. So that's my windows. We're gonna, yes, this is what I want to use. This is the one. Probably the first one. Okay, so and I want to also create a little rim. So if I go like this, let's merge these. So you can see what we're doing. And then what I want is to create a little like a metal bar situation. So for that we can do, just take the main walls, and then we can do a poly wire, hook it in. The default values are fine, so we get this like a rim that also goes in there. So we have some office look, like a big skyscraper situation, I guess, like a big windows and walls, etc. But before we finish our loop, and actually before we merge them, we need to create our material attributes. So I'm going to put an attribute create. This is going to be, I guess, where is it? Let's call it, that's what we call it anyway, material. Local variable is on, and then this is going to be a primitive string. Yeah, and then here I'll call it ID frame, and then I'm gonna copy paste this. This is glass, so that's ID glass, and the last one can be frame as well. That's where we would change the name if you want to apply different materials using these values. And then because this is a result of an entirely separate loop, I want to create a group and then name it window units, in case I want to do something later on. Window units, like imagine if I want to break the glass, I could just isolate it using the window units and then just work on the glass and just use the edges to do some constraints. And then we're gonna let it run. And now we have our windows. We have some black areas, so I guess we need to do a little normal fixing here. Let's try normal swap, see if it does some magic. Yes. We want hard surfaces. Okay. And done. Okay, so we have our windows, we have some of our walls. So it's getting there. We have our so we need to accessorize, maybe even put now. The second thing I think we're gonna do in the line is, what is this part? This is where I'm doing the little advertisement out of the like we saw a lot of. Actually, maybe we should change the process to be a bit more interesting. Well, let's save our scene. We'll change it if we need to change it afterwards. So this is what we call windows. So let's select these guys, give them a name. Windows. Okay. The next one is, now I want to continue by, which part is this? Creating some lights inside the floors and some inner walls, because right now we have no walls. So to create the walls, again, we're gonna go another loop. So we're gonna put another for each per primitive, and we can still fetch this section. Okay, so let's focus on one. So now what I want is to divide this, but we're gonna disable convex and we're gonna go bigger. That's a bit too much detail because we are building size, so we've got 10 by 10. Really big, to create really big room, I guess. And then we can go group swap. We need to isolate from the edges from what's inside. So then we're gonna go here, I'll go outer, change the group type to edges, and then include edges and unshared edges, and edge angle used between these edges as well. And this should give me, and then I need the base group as well. So this is giving me 30. This should work. It's just not showing it properly. Okay, that's correct. This is not working. Okay, we'll try to see if it's. It should have actually. It should give me. Let's try the. I'm just gonna copy paste the other guy to see if there's a difference here. There is no difference, so it's just not, doesn't want to work. Highlighted edges, primitives 15, points 37. Okay, let's do a blast, see what it's gonna go. Let's extrude it. Okay, so it should work. We should be just getting these edges basically, but it should highlight something like this pretty much, but it is not, and I'm not sure why. It is an unshared edge. Is it because I'm doing something with divide? No, it should be breaker shared edges, breaker polygons. What about something like this? So like this, it's kind of working. Well, inconsistent result is not very helpful, but we'll figure this out. Okay, I'm gonna move forward to see, because sometimes you get UI errors, and I just want to make sure that that's not the case. So that's a group create on edges, just include by edges, and my little 3 options, nothing else. Okay, let's move on. Group again. This time we're gonna say all edges, and just leave it as it is. So this is gonna outer 18, oh, so maybe it is working, it's just not. No, it's not working. It should be a smaller number. Okay. Oh, it is working. It just doesn't show. So it was it's a bit tricky. Yes. So it gives me here, I mean, where is it? Okay, so right here it gives me 34 edges, and then when I want to group all the edges, it gives me 68. So I'm gonna assume that it's correct. I mean, we're gonna see it soon enough. Remember where we did the vector declaration here? Extrude direction, just take that again, paste it here, and now we're gonna do a little group combine to remove these guys from these guys. So then you can use group combine, bring it down here, and then select all edges here, and then outer here equals all but. Okay, so that should give you an updated version of the groups. And now we're going to use poly extrude. We did like a group math, pretty much, like take this group and extrude from this group, add from this group, etc. And then let's go poly extrude, and I want to use all edges, and I want to extrude it because these are the walls, so I just need to find a distance that however much I want this to go up and down, and it seems like I've been connecting it from all different places, but now we can just copy what we did for the walls, just paste it there, so then we get a floor. But I think at one stage I realized that I was building walls with no inner walls with no walls, so it's easier if you just subtract it. So if there's anything that shows up off the roof, at least gonna show up at the basement, so it doesn't really, I mean, I'm sure we can do a little easier way to fix this, but okay. And then just turn on the side group so we can remove the roof, and then just blast the side group. Okay, so we have some walls now. Let's run, but the problem is we have no doors, so this is gonna be, these rooms are gonna be super dark, so we need to create some doors. So what I'm gonna do now is, because I want to cut, let's say, most of them or some of them, like to create a little door, so let's do another for loop, because here we have the whole floor. Now I want each wall. Let's do another for loop for each primitive. We get one wall. I'm gonna create a little box. And this is if you want actually where you can probably add more detail to your walls, extrude them a bit more interesting, maybe add a little edge sections, or maybe put paintings in walls and define some values. Oh, we don't need like that, sorry. So I want to scatter a single point. One point. And I was using relax, but I don't need because I'm only scattering 1 point. Okay, so that I just want to copy this box to these points. So it goes like that. That's my door. That's just gonna center. Obviously, I need something that is human size. So the way the number I went was like 1.5 meter 20. So I'm sure that I will have some holes, and then that's pretty much it. Then you go to a Boolean. From here to here, the first one is the surface, subtract. It should give us a cutout section. So if I let it roll, it's gonna make 6,425 doors as it says here. So now I have some gaps people can walk through. I think there is one more thing we should take into consideration, is that the seed, is it always at the same place? I can't really tell. Should be all different. Okay, well, we have doors. What the thing is, you don't have to make a door per wall. So I guess here we could just do a delete, you know, like for the walls we want to make a door, so then we can go, I guess, delete by range, and we just keep some of these to make a wall, then we do the opposite to make the door, and then we, so basically maybe let's do it like that. So, but then we end up getting too many dark rooms, so it's up to you. But if you don't want a door per wall, it's becoming English difficult. This is what you can do. So now we have the doors. Now obviously I need some thickness here, so we can do the thickness as well. So poly extrude. So I'm trying to keep some of these poly extrudes outside the loops because they are not like we can't do a compile. So right now here, I think here if I want I can compile it. Here I really cannot, but then I mean I can probably go around. So let's do a poly extrude. I did 14 centimeters. That's how thick my walls are. And I want output back. I don't need any groups. So now the other thing that I want to do is office lights, because we're going to use that for rendering. Basically it's gonna be where is my wrangle here? Define extrude vector. In here I can, where is it? Okay, so what I want is to create point per primitive. Okay, so then I'm gonna put another wrangle here, and then I can say point per prim. Little code here, add point, add point, 0, add position. Okay, and then I want to remove the primitive, so remove prim. So I added points where the P is, but it needs to be primitive, so it's not in every corner. And then remove prim, add prim number, and remove the point. Why it didn't work? This should have created. Oh, here. Okay, so now if I can visualize that. Okay, so now I have a point in between every centroid. There's some glitches, but we're gonna clean them after. So now I want a box. Again, if you want a higher quality bulb or a light, that's where you do it. You can do the, say, like library of lights and fetch them in and do another stamping. My current light size is 1 meter wide, 1 meter width, and 10 centimeters tall. And then I want to copy the points, get my lights, and I know that I want to transform them down a little bit so they don't penetrate, because that's my ceiling, right? So put a little transform here. And basically you can do this by hand or just get the half distance of the light, but you know, it's an overkill, I would say. Just a little gap is fine as well. And then we're gonna put another group swap here. That these are office lights indeed. Office lights. And we can merge these before we export it out, because we have here, that goes there, that goes there. So we have our office lights that we can separate. Oh, which we should exclude from here, because that's gonna extrude all our lights. Okay, so that's my bad. Oh, this is did make a mistake somewhere. Yeah, it says it's too many. It's doing something wrong. These are my walls. These are my walls. So then I need to extract that there and merge them down there. Okay. Okay, so these are my walls that I'm also extracting. So then, okay, I'm gonna merge this in here. I'm gonna blast this out, so because I don't want the light geometry to go into the next loop. I just want it here, merging after this. Let it cook. Okay, all right, so now we have our office lights, and then maybe we have a bit too many office lights, by the way. Okay, so what we want now is, I think, yeah, this is the part where we need to now put some information. So we have inner walls, right? So that's where we got an attribute create. And again, material. I have the local variable on. It's a primitive, it's a string, not array, it's a string, and it's called ID inner walls. Okay, and now we're gonna do a little clean. Sometimes, like I said, all this workflow can create nans, and which is not very desirable. You need to really remove it. And okay, so I'm gonna not connect them here. It was just for visualization. We need to probably, because I don't think I want 6 billion lights in my building always on, so we're just gonna let's remove some of them. were they packed? These are not packed, so how do I remove them? I need to do connectivity, then remove them. Okay, because I don't want to remove just some faces. I want to remove, when I remove it, I want to remove the whole thing, so we can do a little connectivity. Actually, we can just assemble swap takes care of this quite easily. Let me see. Create path geometry, and yeah, it does. So then I can remove primitives by range. So it's just gonna remove randomly, right? Let's go to some high number and then start going up. Okay, so we removed some. I don't know what the number should be, but that depends on, I guess, brightness level. Okay, so then let's unpack this again. And then let's create another attribute create. And we're gonna call it ID office lights. So it's material ID office lights. Okay, and the last thing remaining now is to create the UVs for these guys, because we are gonna bake our texture, so it's important to have healthy UVs. So I'm gonna use UV flatten, which might take a while, so let's save this. The standard settings, I believe. UV spectral SCP, yeah, I didn't change anything. And we just plug this in here. Let's say if it's clean, yeah, it's black. So okay, that was quite fast because it's a clean geometry, so it doesn't fight with it. Okay, so we packed every single window here. This is all the windows we have, the walls. And then the next thing I want is to put a UV layout. Because I want to distribute it towards different UV tiles. So that's 2 by 1. Just so if bigger the pixel size, so it's either I need to render really big per frame, bake it, or just I can distribute it to different tiles. So I'm just gonna half it out. So if you want more detail, you can go 4, 10, but then of course the baking process is gonna take a longer time. And then the other thing is that I want to turn advanced again, and I want to do the search resolution 2K. That's gonna take a bit more as well, and I think the rest is the default values. Now it's gonna bake. I did. Well, that was quick. Okay, so the next thing I want is, because I already have UV transform, I already created a section here that already had the UVs here, so we need to move these UVs to another empty area, right? So let's let it cook so I can show. So we already used, this is 0, 1, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, or 0001, 02, 03. So now any other UV we create, we need to find an empty place. So in this case, let's just put it as a template. And we have these guys here, so I'm just gonna put on Y1 for the UV transform. So now I have an empty area, so when I bake textures, they're not gonna overlap. So let's call it null. Let's say out inner walls, and then same for this other one. Then this is out office lights. Okay, I'm just gonna check the recording time. Okay, that's 34 minutes, still can continue. And what else do I need to delete something? Well, I have a lot of attributes which I don't need here and here. I do clean them in the end, really, but we're not there yet. I guess we can do a cleanup at the bottom. Okay, so let's change the color for these guys and maybe arrange that a bit better because there's some space here. We can put an output here. We'll say anything. So that's out windows, out windows. Okay, so where can I put this? Let's move these things around a bit. It doesn't need this much space. It's organizing a little bit. And this one as well. This can go up. Okay, and let's just put in this in a network so we can identify it later a lot easier. This can come down as well. Okay, all nice and dandy. So this one is inner walls. That's windows, that's inner walls. Now the next thing is that we can do some columns because we don't have columns at the moment. We can get the floors to do the columns, so we need the floors obviously. So where's my grid? Outer grid. So what I want is that I want this guy. No, not this one. Where is my floor? This one. Yes, I want this one. So basically we're just gonna randomly put columns and then just cut them out so we have some columns inside. So then start by, I guess, object merging what we need here. Let's leave this guy here, which is this one. It's a bit too far, that's why I'm object merging it instead of just wire get. So that's my floor. Now I want to, because I don't want to randomly scatter points, and then I don't want to use relax on the points because it's expensive, so I'm just going to divide this by a number that, oh, should have changed the value first. It's going to generate a lot of polygons. Come on, okay, let's kill it. Put on manual so it doesn't die. So I'm going to go like 10 meters, 20, and this next one doesn't matter actually, and let it cook. Okay, so each one of these points can now become a source for a column. So then what I want is, let's bring this guy here a bit more. Let's build our columns box. Okay, so the height that I want is, remember we resampled our line here? Where is it? Here. Because we're gonna go a little bit more instancing way. So I want to create a box here, every section using each one of these points. Why? Because I want to create, because that's actually end up being a lot of data, and it was a bit tedious. So I instead, well, I mean, that's the way I did it, but then I unpacked it as well. So, well, let's just do the same thing. Anyway, this is all depends on if you want to simulate things or not simulate things. So it's like, let's do it the way I did it already first, and then we'll figure out how to adjust it. Okay. So what I want is the length that returns from here, which is this. So I'm going to copy this value and paste it on here. And then I'm going to paste it again. I'm going to get the half of it. And then what I want is to UV texture this. Originally I was doing this because I didn't want to bake the textures, but then I end up baking because it was just too difficult. So I saved the face because it was too difficult to render. Then do UV layout. Oh, you're out. Okay, it's loading the terrain. UV layout, and this time it's the default. So what it's gonna do is, let me show you. It's just gonna put them in order. Because we didn't define an up vector for copying, we're just going to rotate this to 90 degrees on x-axis, and otherwise we have to do it a bit more sophisticated copy pasting, but that's not necessary. So then for each point again, we're going to do our copy 2 points. Now that should give me 37,120 columns. Okay, and then I'm gonna create a group based on bounds of my shell geo. Remember the shell geo we had in the beginning? So let's call it points first, and let's enable bounds, and it's gonna be object, and this guy is gonna be going here. That's the shell of this seed, right? So that's just gonna group what we can see, what we cannot see, so we can just ditch the rest. Okay. Oh, wrong button. Okay, so then we get some. Oh wait, because this is not packed. Oh, we forgot to pack it. Yes, it meant to be packed here. The reason is because I don't want to cut a polygon if it's just around the corner. So it's either remove the whole column or remove the whole section of a column, or just leave it be. But it's good I just saved it. Okay, what's going on? It's back. Something is slow. Come back. Okay, so I have quite many. 37,000 packed objects. This packing didn't help really. It's super slow. Okay, I'm gonna check my memory, because if my memory is filling up, no, my memory is not filling up, it's just being slow. And I'm just gonna close this. Let's try to delete it again, because if the memory fills up, the audio will be choppy, so we don't want that, obviously. Okay, now it's removed better. Now I can unpack it, because when it's packed, it's just kind of like a because otherwise if a geometry was cutting through, it would just cut like this face, and we'll leave this one open, and which is not good if you want to simulate later on. Where is my columns? Okay, so now I want this to be part of maybe the walls group, or just columns. Let's just create a group. I named it as walls. I don't know why. Maybe I just want to share the same material, probably. So let's just do the same thing. Walls. Well, I guess if this was gonna be a rigid body, I would probably say columns and then give them a different attribute, so I can set the glue constraints to have a different value. Attribute create again. Let's just copy one from somewhere else, because for materials, and we're gonna call it ID concrete. Okay, and again, as always, we do our cleanup, and then we're gonna do maybe you can copy this one here, because the same process. These three, and now out columns. This is gonna go up a little bit. Out columns, okay, and then merge it with here, go black, and in the UV transform, it's gonna be one layer up again, so it's gonna be, why did I do 2 1? Okay, we'll see. Oh, well, we need to check the settings how I did this, because maybe it's not 2. UV layout, yeah, so I didn't use UDIMs for this, so just go rectangles, 2K, largest packable. Now, did I connect it? I think I connected, so it's gonna do it. No, it's, oh, please don't crash. Okay, and let's visualize the result. We are on menu, set to auto, it's cooking. And it's done. There. So now if you merge these, they're all gonna go to some empty area, which is good. So we did the walls. What did we skip? We didn't skip anything. Oh, we did skip. We did skip the external lights and placeholder billboards, which we can do now. And we did the walls. We can do some antennas. Okay. Now let's select all this, put them in a network. This part is tricky, it's slowing it down, so we just have to wait. A little faster. Okay. Maybe I'll just put a manual. Okay, so these guys are, let's expand it, let's make it a bit nicer, tidier. Okay, so columns. Okay, so now we're gonna do the antennas. Okay, so what we want to fetch now again is our object merge, the shell, which is this. We move inside, and then I think we did somewhere above, but I want to just use the group SOAP to isolate some of these parts. So we can put a, where is this? 1 second, on my other scene. Yes. So we can put a group SOAP. And the first one can be roof. And based on normals, set the y-axis to 1, and then it's selecting something, and then we're going to do the bottom as well. Then bottom is going to be the same, but except -1, and then we're going to blast everything else. But this one needs to be bottom. Okay, so we get some stuff that, you know, we can use to plant antennas, pretty much. But okay. So then scatter some points. Because we did like a because we did the cleanup with removing intersections inside, every face we see here is, there's nothing above them, pretty much, except maybe the bottom part. But then we want, oh, well, actually I don't think we need that. I don't think we need the bottom. Okay, so let's scatter. So obviously the scatter resolution is going to be define our antenna count. Okay, so let's create our antenna now. So let's create a box again. And my value for the box is 0.25, 1.25, center 0.5. It's the half of the distance. So when I plant it, it's the point is gonna be not at the center, but at the bottom. Okay, now I want to create an ID for this. So there's my default antenna with no detail. Then I do an attribute create. And that's my ID metal. It's called the set attribute. Set material. Should work a bit more clear. Set material, so that's ID material, ID metal. So then what I want is to split this something like this, right? But I want to keep it all primitives, and then I want to select this section. Okay, actually let's make it a bit more interesting. Extrude, in case we do a flyby or something, that's a bit more interesting. Okay, so then maybe select this guy. Okay, and then maybe group that as well. And I'll call it emissive. We call it top. Let's call it light. Okay, and then we're gonna create another material. Okay, but this time it's gonna be ID emissive. Those are like the little lights, so the helicopters don't hit the building tops. But then I want to use the lights group only. So if I look at the primitive section, I have ID metal, I have 4 ID emissive, and the rest is ID metal. So now I'm gonna put under here an attribute randomize, and I'm gonna save. And attribute randomize, we're gonna go scale. My values are 2.2 to 22, no, 222. Okay, this is the scale. I did create an attribute here that I'm not sure why, so I'm just gonna create it again. Maybe I use it down there somewhere. So wrangle. Oh, I think I gave them so I can create like a random ID. So like maybe I can drive the ID emissive with this point attribute, which is, but I don't think I did it in the end. ID at PT num. Okay, so we don't need the color attribute delete. Well, actually, I did delete as well. So we don't need CD. We don't need X and Z as well. We don't need shape. None of these. Okay. Now I can use copy. I'm not doing it in a loop because it's not gonna be really stamping a lot and this and that. Just using normal add ideas. Just go group, name it antenna, and do another clean. And now out antennas here. And again, change this color and put it in a network. All of this didn't come to me in one go. It was a lot of trial and error. Like, okay, I'm gonna do that, and then I went back, and then I'm like, oh, I need that attribute, so I had to relocate it and everything. So it does take, like a while to actually get it right. What else I have is that, okay, we'll come back to that. I know that you guys are getting impatient anyway, so I want to show you our current progress. So maybe because there's two more sections we're gonna do here, but before we do that, we can actually do something else, which is a bit more fun. Let's go here. So that's where we're gonna collect our output. So let's make something like this. So let's create a lot of object merge now. So what do we need? We need pretty much everything. Out floor, so we can go in floors. Just bring this guy in, and then copy paste in panels. Panels, yes, panels, and that's this one. Then that part is done, and then we need out windows. So in windows, in inner walls, in lights, in columns, and in antennas. So let's go to more. In columns, and in antennas. Okay, so I'm just gonna merge these here now. Okay, and I'm gonna do some major cleanup now, because this is a lot of stuff we don't need, obviously. So I'm gonna do group delete. What do I not need? I don't need, well, actually I almost don't need any of these. I don't need these ones for sure. I don't need this because I have this. I don't need window units. Well, I do need them. Antenna floor. Yeah, I need the rest. Okay. So then, because obviously some stuff didn't have normals and got mixed up in between, so let's just create another normal swap. So like stuff like that we can optimize, like, because I know that I did above a few times. So these can be adjusted, fixed, done right. It's gonna shave off a few more seconds, obviously. We are missing the columns, that's why our buildings are floating. Oh, we need columns every floor, that's why we made a mistake. Of course. Like, what is this? No, this is just, where's columns? Yeah, okay. Alright, it will not fall off anymore. We have some stuff which we need to clean up, obviously. we'll get there. I want also, however, not soft normals because these are buildings. So just because we merged so many things again, I'm just going to do another clean just to make sure that it's, you know, I'm not skipping anything. If you use other renderers, like, I don't know, like NANs are a problem when you do a lot of merge and fix like this. It will, it might make problems. So remember all those materials that we used, my set materials, and then we had the I'm gonna find one set material. Where's my attribute creates? Maybe here, right there. That we turn on the local variable because I want to be able to group everything. I want to be able to create groups based on their material IDs. Okay, so that's where you can go $material, and then I am, how many attributes deletes I have? So many attribute deletes. Well, but that's because now I partitioned my mesh based on ID emissive, ID glass, ID offset, and as long as everything has an ID as a material, that's the only thing I want to keep. So then we can go, I guess we could do the group delete here then. Just to do our cleanup. So now I want to delete everything, but anything with an ID pretty much. So I think, let me see if this works. ID, so that should delete everything with ID, but reverse. No, it didn't. Okay, so we have to delete unused groups if there's any. Let's just do it by hand. So I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this anymore, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. All I want is any geometry that has an ID. Now let's do, I'm just gonna tighten this up a little bit. And attribute delete, because I think this is now our building is there and just we need to really render it. So we're just gonna get rid of everything we don't really need, which is pretty much everything here. These we keep, and we need to keep everything. I'm not sure. I don't need this for sure. I don't need this for sure. I don't need this for sure. Cluster ID. I'm gonna copy them in case they get destroyed. Detail attribute. Don't need. So here we were 101 megabyte. Now we're halfway down just by cleaning attributes. Literally, like from 100 megabyte to 50 megabyte only by cleaning attributes, which is what we want. So now, what I need to do, which we still have these two sections to do and two object merge as well, but so now the output of this I want to pack. So we have one packed building that still has its own issues, but we'll get there. We'll adjust it, and then I think I separated the lights here as well. I didn't bring in light rings in. Why didn't I? Oh yes, of course. So I actually don't want the office lights in there, right? I want them separate in lights. Where did I create the lights? Out office lights. No, yes. So the ads I'm gonna separate, office lights I'm gonna separate, and lights, external lights I'm gonna separate. So I'm just gonna actually separate the office lights. It needs its own treatment, which means attribute delete, and I'll show you why. Probably just remove everything. Create normals again. And I'm going to pack it again. because if I want access to the lights for rendering purposes, I don't want to, and do something with them, I don't want to unpack the entire building, because what I can do is here I'm going to merge them, right? It gives me some path attribute, but that's not how I want it to be. I want it to be slash building slash, what is the name here on this other side? I did it. Slash building, and this one I'm going to copy. I want this to be office lights. Okay. What I don't want to lose is the cluster ID attribute, which in case there's a problem, we can find out which number we are at. So this was set as cluster ID, so I want to actually bring it all the way at the bottom. Object merge, so that before I process anything, I want to preserve some of those, because those are my like building IDs, which are important. So bring this guy here. So if I visualize this now, I have the path, building, office lights, and then I'm gonna make sure that attribute copy, cluster ID, that was the attribute name, I believe. Okay, because I just want to make sure that I know where this comes from. When I do the wedging, if I pinpoint an object that's wrong, and then I can trace it back, and then I know which values, so I can go back by changing it to fix it. But I don't need this per point, so I can attribute promote. This needs to be a detail attribute, because they're always going to come from the same section anyway. So point to, where is it? That's a primitive, so it's primitive to detail, primitive to detail. I should have it here. Cluster 1, that's my ID, that's my 2 types. There's going to be 2 more we're going to be adding to these, but that's going to be after the break. Okay, let's just put a null before we forget. Out building. Okay, so just because we did advance a lot, let's just save and change the building to see what it does. And then maybe we can do a little bit of optimization study. So I'm gonna bring it here so we can see different colors. For those who don't know, this is a great tool, performance monitor. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to go all the way up where we start building our model, which is this, right? So I'm gonna block this. Let's go like this. And then I'm gonna hit record. Before I hit record, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna hit record and change the building. So it's gonna show us what's taking so long, what's fast, where we can speed up things, if we can speed up things, which is good for optimization. Okay, it's going, packing the UVs. UV layout is one of the parts that takes the most processing here, but that's just how it is, so not much we can do there. Okay, but it's almost there, it's coming to the end. Adding the detailed walls, creating inner walls, removing doors. 13,547. Just a bit more. Okay, so and if you zoom out, oh, it's still doing something. It's almost finished. It's not finished. What is it doing? Did I change the? Maybe I moved the thing by accident. Well, we can have a look here. Well, it took 1 minute 25 seconds to generate one of these buildings, and as you can see, UV layout is taking like 2 of these in the UV flatten pack. So like we can go back in here and see what we can optimize. Wherever we can use compile swap, we will. If we need to move things out of compile, so that, like there are a lot of nodes that are incompatible, so we can go workarounds. But honestly, I mean, like 1 minute and 25 seconds is not really a bad number to, you know, like if you leave your computer for an hour, you will end up having 30 buildings, unique buildings. So that's it's actually pretty fast anyway. So not really need to worry there. I just want to spin it around before I close the video, but I think I moved the number to another building number. It's just recalculating it. So let's just wait. Well, I mean, while this is cooking, it's finished. Okay, so that's our new building. All we did was change a slider, and we have a nice building. We have some detailed paneling. I did some earlier versions had some extrusions, but it was just becoming too heavy, like, you know, like different levels of extrusion. It helps a lot because it adds nice like a breakup of speculars when you look like in grazing angle. Like this one, let's say this one is extruded, I don't know, 10 units or 10 centimeters. This one's 5, 20, whatever. And if you want more detail here, you just have to go. I'm gonna put on manual so it doesn't accidentally trigger it, but if you just have to go. If you want more detail, we're running this like what, 10 times, just go 30 and I get more small detail. And yeah, so that's stuff like that we need to clear. We probably should be doing some like we can extract the empty areas to do some. We have double geo, which we have to have a look, and then like floated bits here. I think there was a floor here that we didn't remove, and then like maybe a little railing so people don't fall off the edge. But again, like we're just showing the process here. We can improve this tremendously. From a context standpoint, what we have done is like we just have like these 3 guys left almost, and then I just show you this part, and then buildings, and then we're gonna just bake these out by just like using a very simple TOPS network to create variation basically, and then and then what we need to do is, this is the part I was using, but not really. We are gonna go in then into look there section. We're gonna load each one of these, unpack them, and by using the groups we created, we're gonna create materials, and then we're gonna bake them. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the video now. Good progress. Next up, we're gonna finish our buildings and maybe debug a bit to see if we have some problems. Like you see, there's a missing floor here. That's mysterious. Okay. I did notice sometimes you get like a glitched areas that the Boolean swap usually is not doing what it should be doing, or it just goes crazy. That's why I made like 30 of them, and then I actually picked 10 of them instead of going fixing every polygon. It's just easier to pick 10 of them that works fine. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video now. Thank you for watching.